What is a psychometric test? Psychometric tests are used more and more by companies during the interview stage. There are three main kinds of tests. The first is to find out more about you, your personality, and how you react to situations. The second are aptitude-based tests. So this may include maths or English questions to make sure you're capable of fulfilling the role. The last are competency-based, which are about how you would cope with different situations you might encounter at work. How should I approach these tests? Normal interview rules apply when taking psychometric tests. Dress smartly, keep calm, and make sure you do your preparation. We have a number of practical tests that you can do so that you can get used to the way that questions are formatted. But here are a few tips to help you out. Personality-based tests. It's so hard to judge someone's personality over the course of just a few hours. Nobody likes the thought of a psychiatric probing, but it's important that when undertaking personality-based tests, not to try and give answers that you think they will want to hear. These tests have been designed by professionals, and you should always be 100% honest in your answers. These tests can take the form of written, online, or even spoken form. It's important to remember that you can't pass or fail a personality test. The point is to see what your strengths and weaknesses are. After all, you might be a social butterfly, but that personality isn't going to work well if applying for a job running a lighthouse. These tests are not trying to catch you out, but may also be questions based around how you would deal with a stressful situation or a challenging boss. Many companies that implement personality tests may also give these tests to their high performers within the company to take these tests and then try and match their attributes to a new starter. Questions are rarely straightforward. Let's look at some examples.
Okay, here are some test questions to give you an idea of the sort of thing you'll be asked. Make sure you analyze the information carefully and then choose your answer. What do you like about the job that you apply for or the current job? Why? What subjects you liked in school? Why? Who are your role models and why? Give me an example of an important goal that you had set in the past and tell me about your success in reaching it. What are the aspects of the job you consider to be challenges for yourself? How do you plan to cope with them? What subjects did you least enjoy in school, either high school or college? How do you build trust with your customers or your colleagues? If you can, tell me about a time when your trustworthiness was challenged. How did you react or respond? Who is the most difficult person you've ever worked with and why? What types of clients do you find the most difficult to work with and why? How would you deal with a colleague, a boss, or customer who was rude to you? Tell me about a time when you had to resolve a difference of opinion with a coworker, a customer, a supervisor. And how do you feel you showed respect? Can you describe a time your work was criticized and how you handled it? What would you do if a client had a psychotic outburst in the waiting room? Tell me about a time when you had to adapt to a wide variety of people by accepting and understanding their perspectives. How would your coworkers or colleagues describe you? Tell us about a job situation where you were a member of a team and had information and resources that would be beneficial to other members of the group. How did you communicate it? What resulted from your efforts? And how do you handle a request you disagree with?
Competency questions. Competency-based questions are a great way to gain insight into what sort of challenges you might face on a day-to-day basis in this role. This may be how you would handle pressure or face a certain situation. Of Often, competency-based questions are given orally and will require you to give a specific example from your working life. We are about to give you a few examples of these types of questions, so it's important that you have a few varied examples to mind. Try where possible to give a wide range of examples from throughout your working life so that you can show how different approaches and experiences have formed the person you are today. Here are some more examples.
On television, I usually prefer watching an action movie than a program about art. A, often. B, or C, rarely. This question addresses an applicant's preference for logic versus feelings and intuition. Someone opting for an action flick may be more fact-focused, and that's an important trait for an analytical job. Those who answer rarely may have more creative personalities, and if they choose the question mark on B, it doesn't tell you much. Perhaps they do both an equal amount, or perhaps they simply aren't sure. True or false? People often expect too much of me. Now, this question from the California Psychological Inventory indicates a test taker's conceptual fluency or ability to understand complex concepts. Now, someone who answers true is likely to be easily overwhelmed and may not believe in his or her own talent. True or false? I like parties and socials. A true response would be a positive sign for the sociability scale, indicating an outgoing personality, but it's a negative for independence. It could be meaning that you like to be part of a crowd. And if you like being part of a crowd, perhaps you follow the crowd. Select one statement that reflects the viewpoint most like yours, and then from the remaining choices, select the one statement that least reflects your viewpoint. A, I don't necessarily need to define and control the agenda. B, it's almost never necessary to hurt other people's feelings. C, I'm usually the first person to strike up a conversation with strangers. D, I would never step over others in order to ensure my own success. This question measures someone's need to be controlling, A, as well as their sensitivity, B, gregarious, C, and aggressiveness, D. The assessment, while some people may be deemed more sensitive than aggressive, based on their responses to this question, that doesn't mean they're pushovers. Other statements may reveal those same people are more aggressive than they are self-disciplined. It's all relative, and certain traits will be more important for certain jobs. True or false? I do many things better than almost everyone I know. Now, responding true to this question from the Hogan Personality Inventory could indicate confidence or arrogance, while a false response conveys humility or insecurity. True or false? I don't mind being told what to do. Someone saying true may follow directions well, or in the extreme, may be incapable of independent action. A false response suggests autonomy or could indicate the respondent is difficult to manage. Answer the following on a 5-point scale, whether it is more true or more false. Is uneasy when receiving praise. This statement measures humility and pride, helpful in identifying confident, successful salespeople. Pride is important, but humility is valued more in academic or religious settings.
As you can see from these examples, it can be hard to judge which might apply. Answer briskly and try not to overthink your answers. Aptitude test. Even though you may have numerical and writing skills, it's probably been a long time since anyone put them under the microscope. I would highly recommend that before you go to your interview, you give yourself a few little testers to start working your brain into gear. Aptitude tests are structured, systematic ways of evaluating how people perform on tasks or react to different situations. They have standardized methods of administration and scoring with the results quantified and compared with how others have done at the same tests. They are increasingly administered on a computer, but may comprise of a paper form. They will almost always be timed, so if possible, try and leave yourself time to review your answers. Always be sure to take your time to read the instructions carefully. Often, you may be given an example on the outset as to how the questions will be formatted. You may well be given a paragraph to read and then asked a series of questions as to whether the statements are true or false. It's important in this case to reread the paragraph and make sure that each statement is correct or not. This test determines both your reading and understanding, but also your ability to reason. Similarly, with numbers, you may be given a graph or pie chart and then asked to interpret that data. Let's have a look at some examples.
Look at the above graph. Study it carefully and tell me what was the total value of grade A and C widgets produced in 2009. Read the above statement and then tell me, true or false, the passage suggests that it is safer to spread your savings across a range of different investments.
Psychometric tests are much like interviews in that if you prepare priorly, keep calm and try and be quick and honest in your answers, then you should do fine. Be sure to go over some of your practice tests so that you can get used to the types of questions you might be asked. And the key piece of advice is to not overthink things. Practice makes perfect, so be sure to prepare in advance.